Peter, and thanks to the New York Financial Creditors Association and to everyone associated with this event, and all of you who've come out. And a special kudos to our Facebook Files team, which just has done remarkable, groundbreaking reporting, and a perfect night to hear from the Facebook Files folks, because today, of course, more than 36 states sued Meta for some of the reporting that Jeff and his colleagues did. I just wanted to say, and Peter sort of alluded to it, that some of my biggest mentors have received this honor, which makes it particularly special for me. People like Paul Steiger and Dan Hertzberg and Barney Flame and Paul Martin and Jim Stewart and Matt Winkler, and Tom Herman and Jason Zweig and Ellen Pollack. I mean, just these were my heroes, and I learned so much from them, and it's just really cool to sort of be in their company. And just sort of seeing their names on the list sort of led me to reflect a little bit about the merits of mentorship, because it's really meant everything. And next to my family and my wonderful wife Lisa and my kids Nick and Jess, it's these teachers who basically teed all this up for me. And I've tried to, in my own sort of small way, pass some of it along. So I was asked just to speak for a couple minutes about my career. It's kind of funny. I was joking earlier, if there was a headline for my career, it'd be like, well, if he could do it, anyone could. Because I had one of the most inauspicious starts to financial journalism of probably anybody. I was covering the courts at NYU Journalism School. There was a position open to cover commodities, and I interviewed John Crespo, who was a legendary editor at the Journal, sort of laconic Midwesterner, and I was, incredibly intimidated. I walked into the office and he said, "So what do you know about commodities?" And so I spit out the first thing that came to mind, which is, well, I just saw Trading Places, so I know how being manipulated. True. And he looked at me kind of incredulously, and then for some reason said I had the job. So next thing I know, I was, shocked, a little bit scared. I headed out to Chicago. I visited the then booming, commodity exchanges, and I worked for Sue Schellenbarger, who again was another legendary journal editor, and she had the patience of a saint. And before long, I was introduced to terms like backwardation and banging the close, and strike price and box spreads and crack spreads. And I remember thinking at the time, I always liked foreign languages, so I figured I was probably in the right spot. But the more important lesson that Sue taught me, and I hope we'll hear a little bit more from the Facebook Files folks, was how to invest in building sources, developing relationships, navigating complicated stories, breaking them down. I mean, just all the sort of building blocks of journalism. And under Sue's guidance, every week I would just sit down and we would talk about who I was going to meet that week and which sources I would meet strategically. How were they important? And if they golfed, I would golf. If they drank, I would drink. If they liked sports, I would go to games. And so one early trip I took to Shea Stadium at the time with a bunch of oil traders to a Mets game, and we bonded over betting. They bet on everything. It was extraordinary. They bet on when the next run would be in an even or an odd minute, or some arbitrage play between runs and hits and errors. Of course, they never thought about betting on the score of the game. But the bottom line to me is I was taught how to spend time getting to know people, really developing sources, and I was preached that you would be rewarded for that patience. And there are a lot of wonderful young reporters around, and I see a lot of them sort of texting, or sometimes having online sort of interviews, and that's great, but there's nothing that replicates just getting out and really spending time with people, and it's a really tough thing to do, obviously, in this environment. But anyway, when the position opened up to cover the Wall Street securities industry, I jumped at it, and I replaced another journal legend, Matt Winkler. And it was kind of perfect symmetry. Matt knew everything about securities, I knew nothing. He knew all the titans of Wall Street, I knew none of them. It was just perfect, and I felt like I was sort of like the journalistic equivalent of Zach Wilson replacing Aaron Rodgers as quarterback. We'll see how that works out. But at the time, Wall Street firms were imploding, and Dan Hertzberg took me under his wing, another Bell Award winner, and I sort of cut my teeth on scandals involving Kidder Peabody and Prudential and Solomon Brothers. And because of all the sourcing that I had built up, again, based on all the great guidance I was getting. When a big trading scandal happened at Solomon, I was able to do, under Dan's guidance, 2 long investigative pieces on the front page of the Journal. At the time, we had the column 1 and the column 6 pieces, because Dan and my other mentors had prepared me for it all. And it was during this time that I also realized that how redundant the term investigative journalism is. I mean, all great journalism is investigative, and I realized that my perch as a beat reporter was actually the best. I was in the best position to write about investigations because it was all organic. I was in the flow of news, and again, all you need to do is look at the extraordinary Facebook Files reporting and say, my goodness, that was one of the best corporate investigations of all time, and it happened organically. Paul Steiger, yet another winner. He was kind of the mentor of all mentors for many of us. He carved out a formal investigative reporting position called a Green Beret, and allowed me to do a bunch of things, including uncover rampant bribery in the IPO business. And again, from a sourcing perspective, my mentors had prepared me to do that story. I was trying, there was a key source, I was hoping it was going to be my tour guide for this story, and he was blowing me off for weeks, and he was from San Francisco, and when he called me once, I said, hey, I'm going to be in San Francisco tomorrow, and I insisted we have lunch. Of course, I had no plans to be in San Francisco the next day. The next thing I know, I was in North Beach with him at an Italian restaurant, sharing some amazing wine and Italian food, and no notebook, and he's giving me the whole download, and I'm running to the bathroom, just to scribble on everything I could. But once again, it's like being prepared, to be able to sort of like hit on someone and know who's important. And again, this is all my mentors. A few other things, just in editing, I was thrown in completely cold as well in the money investing section. On my first day as editor, before the first morning meeting, I had one of my star reporters basically come to me and give me a big wood for and say, you don't understand, I am your most important priority over all these yuck meetings you're going to be going to. And I don't know if Susan is here tonight, but if she is, I say you're absolutely right. But really what made editing a breeze was having the privilege of working with the cream of the crop. And that's editors like Chris Stewart and Jen Forsyth and Rob Barry and Tom McGinty. It's reporters from Joe Palazzolo and Rebecca Ballhouse and Coulter Jones and Andrea Fuller and Sue Craig and Michael Rothfeld, Nicole Hahn, Rebecca Davis O'Brien, and many others. I mean, it's just been an incredible blast working with all of you. And Andy Serwer, I think, a few years back when receiving this, talked about fun. And I do think that it's really important for us, amid all the serious stuff we're doing, to have fun. And I know we had a recent investigation we were doing, and we had a to-do list. And the first thing I put up was, the first box was have fun. The second box was have more fun. It wasn't quite as much fun as I'd hoped, but it's still. The thing though that I think we all learned, like all the reporters and editors too, is just the leverage in teamwork. I mean, so much of it is just the power in that. And so it's really allowed us to be able to sort of tackle some really big stories, and whether it's the financial crisis or Medicare fraud or unethical trading by government officials, or even the hush money, the Trump hush money coverage, which was never a story to me about sex. It was always a business story, a core business story about a secret deal and a cover-up. At least that's what I told the editors of the Journal. Anyway, there's never been a more important time to be thinking about all this. Obviously, business has been in some turmoil, 24/7 news cycle, lots of pressure, competition, audience analytics, and the rest. And so it's really important for us to really continue to try to pay it forward. And the challenge is to find as many young, hungry people as possible, school them on all that we know, with all the other pressures, and really have them be able to just rise to the occasion. I actually cite Ace Greenberg of Bear Stearns, believe it or not, who once said he was looking for PhDs. He wasn't talking about degrees, he was looking for people who are poor, hungry, and determined to succeed, and I say amen to that. The flip side, of course, with schooling young people is we also want to learn from them. And we want to just be able to sort of see how they absorb news and think about ways in which they're, ways in which they frame stories and get stories, and so that we hopefully can attract new and younger and more diverse audiences. The upshot is, to me, keeping and cultivating that chain of mentorship is critical to the success and the future success of the business of journalism, and I appreciate you all. Thank you very much.